OneLitPodcast may contain adult language and sensitive subject matter. Please take care while listening.
Hey everyone, I'm Olivia.
Andrea.
And I'm Hayden.
And welcome to OneLitPodcast.
Woo!
Thank you for joining us today for our next installment of A Gentleman in Moscow. We have one more episode after this, and then we're going to be on to the next book. So sad. I'm going to be sad to finish this one. I've really been liking it.
Rostov.
Yeah. But hope everyone is doing good this week, staying warm. It's been pretty cold for us this week.
I've had to work outside every day, and it's terrible.
We had snow this week.
I got to snuggle up at home and not go to work.
I've been working 9 to 5 or earlier in the snow.
Well, you got off Monday for your snow day. I didn't, and then I got off Friday for
I would have rather had Friday.
Well, now you know how the people in the gulags in Siberia felt.
Wow.
That's true.
They had to work. Just, you're not going to die.
And
There's no fear of imminent death.
Yeah, that's true.
there could be.
Anyways, we got a great show for you people, and I think Hayden has something to share later on.
I do. It's a very short, quick little fun fact, but it's funny, and I like it. And I want more of it.
Oh.
All right, so I don't know what he's going to say. All right, what's everyone drinking tonight?
We are back with Oliver Winery. This time we are having the red. Last week we had the white.
A sweet red.
Haven't tried it yet. Have you taken a sip?
Yes.
How
It's
is
pretty
it?
good.
How would you describe it?
It is refreshingly real.
Mouthfeel?
Velvety smooth.
How does it make you feel?
Good.
Okay. Now we're off to a hot start here. Makes you feel good.
That's what all good wine should do.
Yeah.
Make you feel good.
Ooh, that's grape juice.
It's not grape juice. It's not that other one.
It's pretty good. All right, Olivia.
Well, I also have a red wine that's basically grape juice as well. It says made from 100% Concord grape.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Purple Rain by Luva Bella Winery, which I've seen it in the store for the past, month. And I keep looking at it. I'm just like, I just need to get that because, Prince.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, it's Purple Rain by Prince.
Purple Rain, Purple Rain.
It makes me think of chocolate.
Maybe he is like
Chocolate Rain.
I do love chocolate rain. I do love chocolate rain.
It's from YouTube. Back in the old
It's a classic
days.
YouTube video.
Huh.
You've seen it?
No.
Oh.
What's his name?
I forget.
I feel like it starts with an R, but
I thought it started with an L.
Well, I'll try to look it up later.
We'll watch it later.
see if it's as funny as you say.
it's not funny anymore. It was funny circa whatever YouTube era it came out.
Back when I was 11, it was hilarious.
Alright, sounds good. But that's it. Let's all go travel to Moscow. Grab yourself a drink, snuggle up in a cozy corner, and get ready to get lit. So we left off last week with Nina going to Ivanovo to help with the grain production, and we learned that over the next couple of years there will be a combination of hardships that will actually lead to the starvation of millions of peasants based off of programs that the party will try to implement. It's now 1938, and Rostov tells us that, indeed, these hardships have happened. Starvation, famine, which led to a migration of peasants into the cities for work, which then contributed to overcrowding, housing and essential goods shortages, churches shut down, a revolutionary hero by the name of Sergei Kirov was assassinated, and yet Stalin has stated, life has improved, life is joyous, and people believed it.
It's all good, y'all.
Exactly. And to kind of sway the Western papers into believing that Russia is not behind the times anymore, they want to give the appearance of communism being a little bit more glamorous. They start bringing back a few practices and things that have been previously banned. And I also have people started dressing better.
The fashion sense was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I do remember it was talking about like these girls were like on the cover of a magazine, and it was just like, oh, just kind of like the old peasants and everything. But
Yeah,
now
so he talks about
people have
how
like fancy dresses.
there are still shops that were like just for fancy dresses, but now everybody has access to them. Like they can go in and look,
Yeah.
but they still can't afford
Yeah, they still
any
can't
of
afford
the
it.
clothes.
It's the Western influence.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's all of that. Rostov is admiring the return of warmer days when he hears someone behind call his name. It's Nina, whom the Count has not seen in years. We find out that she is now married, and this is why she has come to Rostov. Her husband Leo was arrested and was being sent that night to a corrective labor camp where he will work for 5 years. Nina came to ask Rostov to look after her child, Sophia, until she can find a place for them to live that's close to where her husband will be kept.
2 weeks, maybe a month.
Yeah, she has no one else to turn to, so Rostov obviously agrees. So she gives him Sophia's things, gives him a picture of her and her husband, and walks out of the hotel. After she's gone, the weight of what he agreed to finally weighs on him, and he's like, crap, what's she gonna eat? Where's she gonna sleep? And most importantly, what am I supposed to do with her while I'm working? But he's got this. He'll figure it out. So they head upstairs, and Sophia is tired, and she falls asleep on his bed. And he has to sleep on the floor.
Yeah, he was gonna make her cot, and she fell asleep immediately in his bed.
Mm-hmm. What did you do?
Uncle Rostov.
Yeah, this whole part I thought was super, super cute.
No, she calls him Papa.
Oh,
After
yeah.
a while.
Well,
After
after
a
a while.
Yeah. So the next day, Rostov sits with Sophia, and he's trying to engage her in conversation because it's like she's looking at him like she's bored, but everything he tries to engage her in just gets shut down. So he finally gives her a picture book while he bathes and shaves, and he's just like, ugh, everything was so good, and I had my own space, but now she's here, and it seems like the whole room has just gotten smaller. And he also realizes that over the years he has become set in his ways with a strict routine. Not surprising, since he's been living alone in this one place for 16 years now.
He's kind of like, oh God, I'm old.
Yeah.
So I like the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, he's like, I like my routine, and this little girl has disturbed it. So now he's gonna he's gonna have to shift his whole routine to make her comfortable for the next however long she's gonna be there.
2 weeks or a month.
Yeah.
Tops.
So they go down to the piazza for lunch, and Rostov tells her the story of this clock that he had that she had been interested in. And she starts asking questions, just a lot of why this and why that. And Rostov is like, normally I would be annoyed with all these questions, but at least she's engaged, and he got to talk to her a lot about his past. And all of this stuff with Sophia is new territory for him, obviously. And one of the waiters at the piazza is being discreet because he has a kid. So they get their food, and he's like, do I need to cut her food? To Rostov.
Yeah, he realizes that he's being rude.
Yeah, and he's like, no, I got it. And then later the guy leans over to Rostov and is like, I think she has to pee. Because she's sitting there fidgeting and everything.
Yeah, he asked her if she wants ice cream, and she's like no.
He's like, are you sure? No. Just fidgeting. And the guy's like, I think she has to pee. And Rostov's like, oh, say no more. I got this. So they go and pee, and then after that, she's like, can we still have dessert? He's like, yeah. So definitely gonna be a challenge for him to raise her. So Rostov takes Sophia to the seamstress because, he has to work, and Marina shows her around all the sewing stuff and buttons and fabric, and Rostov is like, hey, would you mind watching her for an hour while I'm at the Boyarskis' daily meeting? So she says, yeah, but, this is only for today. She's not gonna, be babysitting for him or anything. So Rostov goes to the Boyarsky and is like, okay, I just need tonight off to look after Sophia, but I'm gonna find someone who can take care of her while I'm here. And Emil and Andre are like, the night off, but you have that monthly meeting with that guy in the yellow room, and there's this formal dinner you need to attend to in the red room. So Rostov was like, okay, crap. So he's getting everything ready for the dinner when he reaches into his pocket and discovers an envelope. And it was an envelope that had been thrust under his door that morning with the words 3 o'clock written on it. Looking at his watch, it was already 3:15. So he's late. He rushes upstairs to room 311, where Anna Urbanova is staying while she's back in town. Just, ready for their rendezvous that they have.
Their booty call.
Gonna do the nasty. But upon seeing him, she's like, what's wrong? And Rostov says that he's really sorry, but he's too busy tonight. But he actually has a favor to ask of her. So Rostov takes her suitcases and goes downstairs to the laundry room, where he packs up some sheets, a blanket, a towel, and some pillows, and he takes them upstairs. Then he grabs a mattress from one of the other abandoned rooms in the attic, and then he goes down to the pantry, grabs a few cans of tomatoes, and after the room was ready, he goes back downstairs to get Sophia from the seamstress. When she asks what arrangements he made for Sophia, he's like, So Marina is like, fine, I'll watch her tonight. But she should suggest he talk with one of the chambermaids who she thinks would be a good babysitter. Rostov apologizes, but she's like, it's all right. It's pretty clear you haven't spent time with children. But I think you're up for the challenge. Also, I don't know why he didn't ask Anna to do it. Or maybe he did, and she was like, I hate kids.
I thought that too when I read it. I was like, I feel like maybe she's not a kid person.
Yeah, like whenever he asked her, like, can you do a favor for me? I thought it was gonna be like,
can you watch her?
Can you watch this kid?
Maybe he was thinking about how she was with the dogs.
I was like, I hate dogs. I hate kids. But yeah, I thought that too, which I don't really think we've really heard from her after this.
No.
So
she's just there for the booty call.
Yeah. Just like, oh, you have a kid now? Gone downhill.
She's just trying to throw down. With Rostov. You dog. Exactly.
But rendezvous are over now. But anyways, Rostov and Sophia go back upstairs, and he asked her if she wants to play a game. She will go into the bedroom and count while he hides a thimble in the secret room.
I love this part.
So he places it on top of a copy of Anna Karenina on the bookshelf. And when she comes in, instead of like running into the room and looking all willy-nilly for it, she just stands in one spot and studies the room for like a minute before she goes to the bookshelf and grabs the thimble. So he's just like, smart little bugger. They play again. And again, she finds the thimble in no time. So he's like, all right, next time I'm going to put it where she can't reach because she's so short. But she says now it's his turn to find the thimble and her turn to hide it.
It's not a game.
Which he doesn't want to do. Yeah, he doesn't want to do it, but she's just like, it's no fun. It's like, I'm the only one looking. So he goes out and counts and comes back in. And he tries to do the same thing she had just done, standing, taking in the whole room. Yeah. But he can't find anything. He walks around and looks behind things. It's still nothing.
He spends a good amount of time searching.
Yeah.
He gets down on the floor.
Yeah, he's looking high and low. He's looking at Sophia, hoping she'll, like, give him a clue as to where the thimble is, but, like, not a glance, not like a snicker or anything. This girl is just, like, stone-faced.
And, of course, he doesn't want to concede defeat.
Yeah. But he eventually gives up, and Sophia walks over to him and takes the thimble out of his jacket pocket. Which, while he was walking out of the room, she had grabbed him and was just like, you're gonna actually, like, count, right? So she had slipped the thimble into his jacket whenever he was going out.
And he's like, that's cheating!
Yeah. She replies with, well, it was in the room when I hid it and in the room when you hunted for it. So he's like, all right, you got me there.
She's a smart little thing.
She is, and she's only like 5 or 6 years old.
Very much so like her mother.
Yeah. So after that, he goes to the Boyarsky sees to the dinner in the red room and then heads to the yellow room to have his monthly dinner with Osip that he had been having ever since 1930. Yeah, to teach Osip about the ways of the Western world, France, Britain, and now the United States. It actually made me think that they have their own little book club because Rostov was like, read this book before we meet again.
And you know what, y'all? He didn't read his chapters.
Yeah. He like had to read this book, and I don't remember exactly what that book was, but Osip says, well, it's no Call of the Wild. Yeah, I didn't remember. It was something about America. But anyways, Osip was just like, well, it's no Call of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike our book club, Osip is furious when he learns Rostov didn't finish the book they were supposed to be discussing, and he throws it against the wall and asks, why not? Rostov apologizes, then tells him he was going to finish it today, but Sophia had arrived, and he promises Osip that he will have the book finished at their next meeting. So Osip is just like, all right.
Well, he goes, I have a lady staying with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, Rostov, you dog.
It's like, it's a young lady.
Do what you must. And then he's like, it's a child.
Yeah. He's just like, all right, like, I guess children, like, disrupt the ways of life. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that he said Gadzooks when he found out that he didn't read the book.
So Rostov leaves Osip and he's going to collect Sophia from Marina's when he runs smack into Mishka, who's waiting for him.
This part makes me kind of upset because this takes so long and she's just prolonging how long she's with Marina.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like he was literally going to
I said I'll
collect
her
her
as soon as my meeting's over.
Yeah. He like, whenever he runs into Mishka, he's just like, all right, like, I'll like, why don't you like go and I'll like see you later? But it's just like, no, I need to talk now. But anyway, Mishka says he's in town working on a volume of Anton Chekhov's collected letters, but he ran into a problem. One of the editors approached Mishka and told him that a few lines from the letters must be taken out. One saying that Russians who hadn't traveled had no idea how good bread could be. That was like the gist of what those lines were. So Mishka is stricken with the fact that he has to censor this passage, but he does it anyways. And Rostov consoles him and tells him not to let it worry him. They make plans to meet the next night for a drink. And Rostov finally goes back to get Sophia, and at almost midnight, she's still awake because she wanted to wait up for him. And she drags him back to their room, up the stairs, where Rostov has actually bunked their beds, and goes to sleep. Did you want to say something?
I was going to say, I really liked how whenever he got there, he expected her to be fully asleep, but she just sat there with perfect posture, just waiting patiently.
Yeah.
She has such good manners for a child.
Yeah.
For children.
For children.
For children. Yeah, so we actually find out that one of the reasons she wanted to stay awake was she wanted to hear the clock chime, because the clock that he had, it only chimed twice a day.
Yep. 12 and 12.
And everything. So that was one of the reasons that she wanted to stay up and everything. But
Which I like that whole part with the clock.
The explanation of the clock
where
and
it
why
was
it only
like,
chimes twice.
if it's, chime at lunchtime. So like if you hear it chime at lunchtime and you've done a lot with your day, it's a rewarding sound.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've done absolutely nothing, it's like, oh shit, I've not done anything today.
Yeah.
And then ideally, if you have done all your work, I think except for the Lord or whatever, the Lord or just your daily duties, you won't hear the last chime.
Yeah, because you'll be asleep because you've worked hard that day.
And if you hear it, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, I didn't put anything like that in there, but yeah, that's a really good part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they go up to the room. Rostov has bunked their beds and everything, and she goes to sleep. Which, like, I want to see this setup because he uses the tomato cans to loft her mattress above his own, and I'm just like, how's that not going to fall on him?
So So I was like, I was picturing like he has a bed frame, and it's off, I guess, higher off the ground.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then he just slides the suitcases under and props up the... But he was like, I have to make sure I don't step on her in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it was like maybe like a trundle under his bed or something?
No, so he has a bed, and then it's
like her feet's probably under the bed, maybe?
Well, it says so he uses the tomato cans to loft her mattress above his.
Okay.
And like, because it does mention like he doesn't have a lot of space, like to actually like sit down like on his bed and like, you know, like
gotcha.
Actually sit up and everything.
Might be some big tomato cans.
Yeah, so like she's above him.
Oh, she's like, above him. I thought she was under him.
Yeah. And then especially whenever like she grows up and everything.
How does that
work? Just like, are we still like doing the bunk bed thing? Because I don't know. But
well,
anyway.
Eventually, doesn't she take the extra room? No?
It never mentions that.
I know they use it later. I thought she might use it herself.
Like she takes the office?
Right.
I don't know.
Which would make sense, but...
I don't remember it saying that. I mean, I feel like that would be...
a smart move.
A smart move. But anyways. So that night, Rostov has a fitful sleep. He's worried about Mishka and the stricken words, and worried about Nina on her journey, and then worried about taking care of Sophia. And then we jump to Mishka, and that night he had done what Rostov had told him. He had a drink, he ate, he got some sleep, and he woke up the next day feeling better about his decision to strike those sentences from Chekhov's piece. But then he's walking to the House of Writers, and he has this, like, epiphany that he had told Rostov back in 1922 that they were going to forge this new age of writing in Russia. But what's happened? All these Russian writers haven't written anything in years. Some of them have been arrested. So now he's like pretty pissed that they're basically being silenced. So he goes to the office of the editor he was at last night and storms in the middle of a meeting. And he starts ranting on about like, oh, what will you be censoring that day?
Oh my gosh.
And when the guy tries to tell him that they're in the middle of something, Mishka says, yes, there are statues to be moved, lines to be deleted, and at 5 o'clock you mustn't be late for your bath with Comrade Stalin, for if you are, who will be there to scrub his back?
That's so good.
The fallout of this became that he was brought in front of the NKVD, which is the new Russian secret police, for questioning. And in March of 1939, he was bound on a train for Siberia. No! Which was so sad. Rostov says that he was right to be worried of Nina also, for she did not return to the Metropole within the month, within the year, or ever again.
No!
And Rostov tried to figure out what had happened to her, but it was like she had just disappeared.
Young Nina has probably died.
Yeah, so we don't know what happened to her.
Like, I don't know how the conditions are, because her husband was sent to Siberia.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, is there a place
she
for her to go?
said she was just going up there, taking a train to set up
like
a home, an apartment.
Yeah.
And was never seen again. So I'm thinking she might have tried to, like, break him out or something.
Yeah, we don't know. Like, did she do something to where, like, she got in trouble and she was taken somewhere, or did she just, I don't know, just...
So now that you say that, I'm like, okay, so maybe the dad's still alive.
Possibly.
Maybe he comes back.
But if he's not already out, I don't think he can come back.
I mean, it could always take a while to find her.
True.
And everything. Because, I mean, I don't think he would know that Nina would take him to the Metropole.
That's true.
And everything. Too. So, yeah, it's like, we don't know if Nina is dead. We don't know if she's just like, I just can't with my life. And she's just like,
run away.
She could have. It's just like,
take my kid.
How to take care.
My husband's in jail.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm out of here.
I don't think Nina ran. From what we know of her,
she
her
could've.
personality.
It seemed like she was a caring mother.
Yeah.
From what we know of her personality from previously when she was a child, I don't think she would have.
I'm just saying it's a possibility. Because we don't know.
All right,
But, yeah, there's...
Mr. Towles. Tell us what happened to her.
We might find out later at the end. So we don't know what happened to Nina. And then Rostov says that he was also right to worry about Sophia. Word eventually got around that he, a former person, was taking care of a child. And the order was almost given for the orphanage to come and take her when a rumor went around that Sophia was actually the child of Anna and this one Politburo member, which is like a member of the government, because they had apparently been like having a thing for a while. So everyone was like, it wouldn't be a good look to put this political member's illegitimate daughter in an orphanage. So thankfully that went away. It's 1946, and there's a lone man limping along Red Square in borrowed clothing, and the narrator says that that's the same for many men across Europe since the end of the Second World War. That afternoon, the square was crowded with a long line of people standing at the entrance to Lenin's tomb, waiting to pay their respects to the man who had died over 20 years before. The narrator, because Rostov wouldn't really know this, so I'm saying it's not him, says that there are lines everywhere now. Tram stops, the grocer, lines at the Agency of Labor, Education, and Housing. And he says that this universal line was Lenin's greatest innovation. So he's basically like linking the formation of these lines to communism. Like, now we have communism and there's no food, no jobs, no houses for people. Hell, there are no people due to the war, and then all these people during this time being shipped off to Siberia to do labor, and people have to wait in line for hours. And the book says, if one is willing to stand in line for 8 hours to purchase a loaf of bread, what's an hour or two to see the corpse of a hero free of charge? And then it talks about like 5 years ago, the Germans had launched Operation Barbarossa, where they were trying to invade the Soviet Union and take over Moscow, but it was a failure. Hitler was coming to Moscow. But that was a failure.
Fail.
And this victory kind of helped bolster Stalin's standing as a leader, because a lot of politicians were wanting to make a retreat for Kubyshev. But Stalin was like, I'm not leaving Moscow until the last drop of Russian blood has been spilled. So everyone's like, yeah, nationalism and everything.
Stalin is hardcore.
Stalin's hardcore. Some of you may die.
That's a chance I'm willing to take.
Yeah, the Russians during World War II were pretty much just like, we're going to throw as many forces as we can at you all at once, and millions of Russians died.
Yeah, it's like, we have a lot of people.
That's it. Some of them probably didn't even have guns.
Probably. I don't know. So the Germans end up having to retreat without stepping foot in Moscow because of like, it was mostly like the weather and everything.
Right.
It was like, this weather's too bad for us and
The
everything.
harsh winter.
Yeah, so they have to go back, and then eventually Russia would take Berlin and destroy and like help destroy, take down Nazi Germany. So we skip to the next chapter. One day, Rostov is summoned to the manager's office, which is now occupied by the bishop, which is the nickname that Rostov had given that really bad waiter when he had started all those years ago. If we need a refresher on who this guy is, he like hates Rostov. But he summoned him, and he's going over his day. Like, Rostov is a man of habit, so he eats his breakfast in his room at 7 and then goes down to the lobby to read the paper at 8. And Rostov's like, why is this guy going over like my daily habits? He's like, so you must have witnessed the incident that occurred on the 4th floor today at 7:45.
Oh, that.
So what had happened was Rostov descended the stairs at his usual time to the 4th floor to hear shouting in a dozen languages.
Arguing.
Yeah, like the residents on the floor were like from like Russia, Italy, France,
There's an American.
Switzerland. Yeah, there's there's an American on the 5th floor and everything, but he comes into play. And so all of these people are yelling at each other because there were these 3 geese on the loose on the floor. And one of the guest kids was chasing after them. Everyone was yelling, catch them, blah, blah, blah. Until this American general from Texas came tromping down the stairs from the 5th floor.
Grabs it by the neck.
Yeah, all the commotion had woken the guests from the 5th floor. So he grabs one of the geese by the neck.
Everyone cheers.
Except the women.
He intends to snap its neck.
They cheer until he puts the second hand around its neck.
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
Everyone's like, no. So he ends up just going over into one of the apartments, throwing it out the window, and then he grabs another goose, and when he does that, his robe falls open, and everyone sees his underwear.
And a woman faints.
And one of the ladies faints. So Rostov is standing there just looking at the scene, and there's a guy standing next to him, which is the general's assistant and everything, and this guy just laughs and he's like, how I love this hotel. So Rostov remembers that, and he's like, yeah, I know what happened because I was there, but I don't know why I was brought here now. So the bishop is like, well, the events did suggest a certain childishness, and the geese had been locked in a cage in the Boyarsky. So he ends his conversation with Rostov, reminding him that the Metropole Hotel services unparalleled comfort, service, and mornings free of mayhem, and he will get to the bottom of who was responsible. Well, Rostov goes away knowing that he's suggesting Sophia was behind it all. And Rostov is like, she's not a ne'er-do-well. She's 13. Ask anybody and they would tell you she's a well-behaved girl. Now, she does have her little tricks using all the hotels, hidden hallways and back passages to transport herself from one end of the hotel to the other in the blink of an eye. And she would always, surprise Rostov because they would both be up in his room. He would start going down, and then she would, automatically be in the hotel lobby. It's just how the heck did you get here?
Yeah, I think it's he goes down to read the paper he does, and he gets down there and she's already got the paper out.
Yeah, exactly. But when she surprises him from coming from out of nowhere, she would but acknowledge him with a nod, not a giggle or a smirk. So the notion that she would be behind something like this, Rostov thought preposterous.
She was studious, shy, well behaved, or in a word, demure.
Exactly. And Rostov is like, even though she had been eating in the kitchen when the chef heard that a certain Swiss diplomat had questioned the freshness of the poultry, and she was devoted to her Uncle Emile, even so, how is a 13-year-old girl supposed to get 3 geese to the 4th floor at 7 a.m. without detection? So Rostov then gets back to their room, and she's reading a book by Montaigne, and he's like, Montaigne? So he looks over at their dresser, which had 3 legs. So he had shoved the copy of Montaigne under it, at the beginning of the story, and she had put a copy of Anna Karenina under there. And he's like, "What's this?" So she's like, "Sorry, it was the only book that was closest to the thickness." And Rostov says, "Anna Karenina would never have put you under a bureau just because you happen to be as thick as Montaigne." And then Rostov then goes to the Boyarsky. He's ranting about the goose situation to Emile and Andre, and he's like, it's an outrage to accuse her of that. And they're like, here, she's a good girl. Oh, by the way...
There's feathers in the dumbwaiter, also.
Can you have someone clean out the dumbwaiter? Because there's feathers in it. And Rostov is just open-mouthed, oh, that's how she did it. And just then, Emile's new sous chef comes in and says that there's a haggard-looking man at the back stairs. And Emile gets mad with him, saying, haven't I told you 100 times to not let beggars into the kitchen, because if you give them food, they're going to come back with 50 of their friends. But the man says, that's the thing. He didn't ask for food. He asked for Count Rostov. So Rostov goes out to the man. He gives him a look over, and then embraces this man whom he hasn't seen for 8 years.
Mishka.
It's Mishka.
Back from Siberia.
Yeah. And Rostov says it's no wonder he didn't recognize him because he's 30 pounds lighter, wearing a threadbare coat and dragging one leg behind him. And for that matter, Rostov has seen the years take a toll on all of them. Him, Emil, Andre, they're all just getting gray around the ears and everything. But Mishka tells Rostov that he has a -6, and he's technically not supposed to be in Moscow, which, remember, a -6 is whenever you're banned from the 6 major cities of Russia. Mm-hmm. So he's living in a town called Yarros, which, with other fellow former inmates of the camp he
took one of their IDs to get into the city.
Yeah, he had taken one of their... not he hadn't stolen it or anything, but he borrowed it. Yeah, he asked one of the guys to give him.
They looked close enough.
Yeah, so now he's here in Moscow, and Mishka recalls to Rostov's memory the night when the German man had challenged anyone to name something Russia has contributed to the West besides vodka, and Mishka says he had thought of another one during his time in the camp. It was the burning of Moscow in 1812 when Napoleon had taken over the city, but then hours later, Russian citizens had set the city on fire. Mishka says that event was especially Russian, for as a people, we Russians have proven unusually adept at destroying that which we have created. And then he goes into how when the collectivization of farms started happening, people would kill their own cattle rather than give it up to the collective. And Mishka is why do we do stuff like that? He says we're prepared to destroy that which we have created because we believe more in the power of the picture, the poem, the prayer, or the person. Then he tells Rostov that the main reason he's in Moscow is to visit the library. There's a little piece of poetry, if he wants to call it that he will share with Rostov when the time is right. So it's just what you working on? A little piece of anti-communism propaganda or something.
Probably.
So he's leaving the hotel. He turns to Rostov and says, "Who would have imagined when you were sentenced to life in the Metropole all those years ago that you would just become the luckiest man in all of Russia?" So it's Rostov's not having to deal with all of this crap that all of Russia has had to undergo, and it's just honestly you're the lucky one here, man. You're not having to deal with all of this shit.
Real.
So that's pretty sad.
I like that line because it comes back here in the next bit. But he's the luckiest man in all of Russia.
Rostov is, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I wrote it in here, but yeah, I can.
Basically says, who would have known that with your sentencing you would become the luckiest man in all of Russia? Yeah.
So
he doesn't have to go out into basically the war zone that is Russia and has been.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But that night is Rostov's monthly meeting with OSIP. It's been going on for years now. And they had eventually switched from reading Western books to watching Western movies. And all the movies to OSIP are just works of propaganda.
I do like how he says, though, I thought a quick trip to San Francisco would be in order.
Yeah, he mixes up some of the words. It was funny. But yeah, so all of these Hollywood movies are just works of propaganda by America. Musicals being designed to placate the impoverished with daydreams of unattainable bliss, or horror movies being sleights of hand in which the fears of the working man have been displaced by those of pretty girls. That is, until he finds noir films where corruption and cruelty lounge on the couch. Justice was a beggar and kindness a fool, i.e. an unflinching portrayal of capitalism as it actually was, he says.
I do like this whole section, though. I left a little mark on these pages because I really enjoyed this whole section and what OSIP has to say, because I think he's partially right about some of it being a form of propaganda, especially during the time of the Depression, films from the 1930s, when majority of America, middle class, lower class, we're all poor and impoverished, and there's these people in Hollywood making these films about things that they don't care about.
Because it's like a way to escape.
Yes.
And everything.
But I do see that as a form of propaganda as well. I think Osip's partially right.
I guess Osip's just like, oh, Russians don't want to escape or something.
Yeah, of course.
Do you not want to escape?
Oh, no.
Osip crap that you're dealing with. He likes film noir.
Yes.
Stuff. It doesn't seem like he really likes the other movies.
But I just really enjoyed his whole take on all of this and how he thought it was shameful, scandalous, insidious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're watching the movie. Rostov is a little absent-minded from Mishka's visit, and he asks Osip if he thinks Russians are more apt than other nations to destroy that which they have created. Mm-hmm. And then Osip tells him that Russia has come a long way since 1916, when there was still serfdom and half the nation was illiterate, and people would just repeat the same day over and over, following the ways of their father. Now women and working-class peasants have been elevated to the status of equals. Cities are being built. Industrial production is growing rapidly. But Rostov asks him, but at what cost? At the greatest of costs, Osip spits back, saying that no great achievements come without costs. So, after parting with Osip, Rostov makes his way to the bar and ends up talking to this American general's assistant from earlier, who said that he loved the hotel. And we find out his name is Richard Vanderweil. And he ends up telling this man, too, his concerns about how Russia destroys that which it creates. And the man tells Rostov that, like, yeah, there's a sorrow for what is gone, but he can't help thinking that grand things persist. And people may think one way about something now, but it may change for the better in the future. And there he kind of talks about, like, Socrates and, like, 2,000 years, like, after him and, like, his ideas and everything. They're still talking about him, and it'll be the same with Russia. Kind of like things will fall out of style, but then they'll come back. So it's like, I feel like there Rostov can like take heart in that, like, the old Russia that you knew and loved will like come back, like once all of this stuff with like the Soviet Union and everything is over. Like, there will be leaders that come and are just like, oh, like, let's go back to how things were.
Except Rostov will not be alive.
Even though he won't be alive to see that. But just take to heart, like, what you know and love. Like it won't ever completely die. Like, it'll eventually come back and everything, even though it's like forbidden and illegal right now.
That's something to think about, though. Because I would say in our lifetimes currently, I think it's very possible that we'll see things happen, you know, similarly, like a new Russia will probably happen once Putin is gone. I mean, certainly we'll all outlive Putin.
Yeah, he's pretty old.
Yeah.
Now.
I'm going to look it up. I don't remember how old he is.
I would say he's probably in his 60s.
I bet he has like some kind of anti-aging chamber in there.
He does look the same.
He does look exactly the same. Like, if you look at him from the 90s
he is
to now.
72.
No.
Yeah, I knew that he was like up there.
Holy crap. He looks like he's 50 or 60.
I mean,
no, he
was in the
72.
He was in the secret police like
Yeah.
back in the days.
That's true.
So
he knows things.
Even with Putin gone, there will be a new Putin.
You think so?
Yes.
You don't think it'll be a change in regime?
I don't.
Oh.
There hasn't been in Russia.
Well, Putin's had power for a long time.
Yes, because of what Olivia mentioned with the Duma.
Yeah. That's true. I forgot about the Duma.
Which I don't remember exactly. I actually listened to like a history podcast about him not too long ago, and it was talking about like he was in power for a while, but then it was like someone else came after him to be like quote unquote president, but he was just like a, you know, like a
He was
Putin
like,
was actually running everything.
yeah.
And everything. So I think that was before it changed to where it's just like, oh, we're gonna have the president like be the president forever or something. I don't know how their political system works. Like, I don't know if they
Well,
actually
I
have
mean,
elections now.
So,
or
like,
anything.
you know how we have, like, impeachment and stuff like that. Nobody would try to impeach Putin. Even if they did, it would go through the Duma.
Right.
And the Duma would be like,
Nah.
eh? And then Putin would be like, hell no. Because, like, I'm not giving up my stuff.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I'm seeing parallels. You know, a lot of time is passing, and a lot of
He's gonna
changes.
bomb us.
A lot of changes have happened
Us
in Russia
specifically.
during Rostov's time. So I just find it interesting, you know, that
The
in
missiles
our
are-
lives we will see a lot of things change as well.
Hey, I hope so.
I hope so, yeah.
I hope so for them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, there's tons of propaganda in Russia right now.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is think of the propaganda that's going on at this time with, you know, the whole war in Ukraine.
Yeah, like they try to ban like Pussy Riot, that band that's always like anti-government, trying to highlight, you know, the injustices of their society.
You can look up videos of Russian citizens that are being interviewed on what they think about invading Ukraine, and all of them think that Russia's doing the right thing.
Well, I remember in class, our professor played like a radio station for Russia, and it was like, you know, very like, Russia's great, Russia's amazing, like it has no problems, but
Yeah.
it has its problems.
Of course.
Because I mean, it's almost like, you know, Korea, where they're like, this is the only person you can follow, like Putin all the way.
Korea's
if I hear
a
anything
little-
else,
Well, I think maybe Russia hides it more. I always think of North Korea as being more extreme than that.
Russia's more stealthy.
I think they are. Like they probably do implement a few of that. We just don't see it.
They do it very stealthily.
Korea's very open about it. They worship him like a god.
Mm-hmm.
All right, back to the story.
Things change. Anyways, so Rostov passes Sophia in the lobby, and she gives him a wave, and he starts to head. And once he starts going up the stairs, he starts sprinting because he knows Sophia is going to try to get up to their room before he can.
He's gonna beat her.
Yeah, using all of her little hallways and stuff. He's like, not today. He sprints up the stairs and gets to their room. Sophia isn't there, so he's like, yeah, I beat her and everything. And he takes a seat at the desk and he grabs a book.
Act like he's been there a while.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait for her and everything, but a few minutes go by and she hasn't shown up, so he's just like, all right, like, I guess I was mistaken and she wasn't gonna actually try to beat me up the stairs and everything. So he's like giving up and everything, but one of the chambermaids runs into the room and tells her that Sophia has taken a fall in the service stairs. So he runs down to the 3rd floor landing, and she's sprawled on the steps, bloody with a gash over her brow, not wasting time. Not wasting any time to think. He picks her
This
up,
part is so sweet.
runs her downstairs, I know, past the lobby, past the bar,
Out the
desk,
door.
Out the door!
onto the steps of the Metropole where he has not been for over 20 years.
Damn!
And he jumps into a waiting taxi, telling him to take them to St. Cyprian's Hospital.
Okay, but first,
Yes.
this taxi is really gross because he's like, sees her like knocked unconscious, and he's like, eh. He's like, this is my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You
that-
sicko.
yeah, it's like one of the like taxi drivers like seeing him with a basically unconscious girl. It's like one of them gave him like a smirk, like, but then it's just like they saw the blood and was like, oh crap. So he's like, take me to the hospital. When they get there, Rostov knows he's made a mistake. 30 years ago, this hospital was one of the finest in the city, but now there were grown men sleeping on benches.
Full of like veterans.
Yeah. Yeah, from the war. The hallway lights flickered and it smelled of ammonia and cigarettes. So a doctor comes out and says, oh, she'll need to have surgery and everything. And they get her back to a surgery room. And this guy comes in ready to go, but Rostov is obviously concerned.
Are you qualified?
Yeah, he's like, this place is falling apart. He doesn't know who this guy is. So he's like, are you the surgeon? But the guy is pissed off for being questioned on his ability and tries to throw Rostov out when this other guy walks into the room. And it's Lazovsky, who is the chief of surgery at the First Municipal Hospital. And he says that he will see to the surgery.
Lazovsky.
Yeah. So Rostov sits outside the room for what seems like hours. Eventually, Lazovsky comes out, tells him that Sophia will be perfectly all right. And then who walks in? But Osip. He talks to Lazovsky for a second and then comes to sit next to Rostov. He's obviously surprised that he's there, and Osip tells him, as I have told you, it's my business to keep track of certain men of interest. So thankfully, by spying on Rostov, he was able to be there to help and send a good doctor to help Sophia, who will take her to a better hospital in the morning to get some more rest. But then he tells Rostov that, like, I know you want to stay here and be here for her, but you can't stay here any longer. If people find out that then, like, that you're gone from the hotel, then it's not going to be good for you or Sophia. So he needs to head down the back stairs. There are 2 men to take him back to the hotel.
And he says this little line. He says, Osip says, you have been at my service for over 15 years. It's a pleasure for once to be at yours.
Yeah, that was really cute and everything.
And I doubted Osip.
Yeah, he's been kind of like...
I mean, he's probably still not the best guy, but he cares for Alexander enough to do this.
Yeah, he's like, you've been, like, helping me for all these years. Like, I can at least do this thing for you. Yeah, so he tells Rostov that Marina will be there to look after Sophia while he stays back at the Metropole. So Rostov gets into the van that will take him back, and as they're driving, he's looking out onto the Russian streets he has not seen in 2 decades. So much has changed that after a while, he stopped looking for familiar landmarks and just watched the blur of the city receding from view as he's taken back to the hospital. Why did I say hospital? Taken back to the hotel. They just did a U-turn. Back at the hotel, Rostov goes up to his room and notices that there is a black leather case left on his desk. And there is a note from Richard Vanderweil saying that since he is headed home, he thought Rostov would find the contents useful.
Oh, shoot, real quick.
Yeah.
Right here is where he says,
oh, yeah.
But if tears fell freely down his face, they were not tears of grief. They were tears of the luckiest man in all of Russia.
Yeah.
Talking about Sophia.
Yeah, I didn't have that in my notes or anything, but whenever he, like, gets back up to his room, Rostov just, like, busts into
Feels
tears.
her absence.
Yeah, he's just like, well, I don't think it's her absence. It's just like, oh,
That's
my
a traumatic
gosh.
experience.
Like, yeah, it's just like, I mean, he's been taking care of her
For years.
now, and like he obviously sees her as a daughter and everything, so he's just like, oh my gosh, like this thing that happened, and like, yeah, like I'm so lucky that someone was looking out for me, so like she didn't have to like get surgery by this weird guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a traumatic experience alone, just running to the stairwell and seeing her looking dead.
Yeah, finding your child all bloody and busted up is not good and everything. But yeah, so he notices the black leather case from Richard. He opens it to discover a phonograph and some records, and he plugs it in, and he's listening to a rendition of Tchaikovsky. That was one of the records.
I think it was a live version too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a rendition by someone.
The audience.
Yeah, it was a rendition by someone named like Horowitz. And then we jump to Andre's point of view, and he's going home. When he gets home, his wife is not there. She's at the new milk store waiting in line for milk. And she says that the milk there is fresher and the line is shorter. But Andre knows the truth that the store was built in a decommissioned church that still had a little mosaic of Christ and the woman at the well that no one had bothered to dismantle, and the women who waited in line for milk were willing to hold your place in line while you slipped away to pray.
Sweet.
Yeah, really sweet. And then Andre walks back to his son's old room,
Mm-hmm.
which he had been killed in Berlin just before the end of the war.
Like a couple days before the end
like
of the
a couple
war.
days. And they hadn't moved any of his stuff out yet. Just preserving it in its own little time capsule, which he knows is probably sustaining their grief rather than alleviating it. But he doesn't want to do it for his wife's sake. And for the fact that if the neighbors know they have an extra room, then they will either be moved to a smaller apartment or forced to take in a stranger per the housing authorities.
Really quickly, I just want to say, I still have the image of... We're going back a little bit. I still have the image of what happened on floor 4 in my head, and I think that would be a great painting. Just, it's like a hallway of a hotel... And I'm picturing a balcony on the left side that would overlook the main area of the hotel. And you're just standing there seeing what looks like an American military man with his robe open, holding a goose. And then another man catching a woman fainting. And a crowd of people, like a person peeking through the door, people in the back. That would be a great painting.
Yeah, that'd be pretty hilarious.
That would be something like you would see like a propagandist writer, like cartoonist.
I would love to see something like that.
So it's like America, like being this...
In like a Russian propaganda style. Like how I'm immediately thinking of the Russian propaganda for alcohol, where it's just like, niet. It's a dude, it's a hand saying no to alcohol. If it was in that, and it's almost pop art, if it was in that style, it would be great.
Yeah.
But I was thinking more of like a cathedral style painting in that.
Yeah.
That would be all. Oh my God, I wish I could paint. I would do it so quick.
They're probably like, why is that guy in his boxers when they come to me?
And it's the American, the vulgar military man.
Yeah. The
pervert.
Uncivilized. Not like us.
Two-handing this goose.
That would be funny.
Got 2 hands on his goose.
Man, I wish I could paint. I'm going to take a crack at it. We'll see.
All right, sounds good. Moving on. It's now 1950, and Sophia is now 17.
Big time jump.
Yeah, grown up in the blink of an eye. And Rostov is talking to Vasily like, we used to be buttoning their coats and tucking them into their blankets, but now we must encourage them to venture out and make something of themselves. Then he asks Vasily where she is.
That's funny. So, by the way, have you seen her?
Yeah, talking about her, have you seen her? And he's like, she's in the ballroom with Viktor, the conductor of the orchestra at the piazza. Well, Rostov is not a fan of that. So he marches in and sees them holding hands and sitting together. So he grabs Viktor and hoists him up by his lapels. And he's like, Viktor's like, wait, it's a misunderstanding. And then Sophia chimes in before Rostov can punch this guy that, yeah, Viktor is just her instructor and he's been teaching her piano. So Rostov looks down and is like, okay, I guess the so-called love seat they were sitting on was a bench, and where their hands had been entwined, there was a set of piano keys.
He just saw. He just had tunnel vision.
Yeah, tunnel vision, but he doesn't back down, and is like, so that's your game, eh? Seducing women with jitterbugs? But Viktor's like, what? No.
This is so great, though, because he goes in there, and he dangles him in the air, and Viktor's like, Your Excellency?
Yeah, Your Excellency.
There's been a terrible mistaking.
Yeah, he's like, I don't believe it. But,
this mustachioed scoundrel will never forget this.
Yeah, but Viktor's like, no, here, let her play for you. So she starts playing Chopin, Opus 9, number 2 in E-flat major. And Rostov is just astonished in Sophia, just this lovely woman she's become in her playing. So after she's done, Rostov asks her why she never told him she was learning piano, and she tells him she wanted it to be a surprise for his birthday. Then Rostov asked her if anything's wrong, because it seemed like she was bringing the music to life with feelings of sorrow and heartache. And she said that when she played the piece, she thinks of her mother and how the few memories she has are fading. And Rostov says the same thing is happening with memories of his sister, but that those you love will never slip away entirely. And then Rostov starts telling Sophia that the ballroom used to be her mother's favorite room and that they would hide in the balcony and spy on the assemblies, and then she would do her experiments in there, and then Sophia starts to feel better. So Sophia goes off to see a friend, and Rostov takes his lunch at the piazza where a young man is sketching in a sketchbook. And Rostov asks what he's sketching, and it turns out to be the interior of the piazza. And the man says that he's actually an architect and that there are a lot of buildings being built in Moscow, but little need for architects. So he's drawing hotel interiors for a brochure. And then we get this big blurb on how the reasons there are so many buildings being built, but little need for architects, is because the architects of Russia had come together to try to figure out the population growth of the cities. And they wanted to build all these new fancy apartments that were suitable for every kind of family. And they wanted to be able to have all the new modern amenities for the time, and every room have their own kitchen and bath, etc. But the mayor of the town was like, guys, I love the enthusiasm, but we need to get this done as fast and as cheap as possible. So they ended up just doing like cement-walled, very small apartments where they all looked exactly the same.
Quick and dirty.
Yeah, and there was a communal bathroom for everyone to share, which sucks. So yeah, everything was so simple it could be built by the builders, easy peasy with no architect help. But they keep talking about art and pictures and how the piazza is kind of looking a little worse for wear over the past couple of years, just because, it's an old building and everything, but that the room is a summation of all that has happened inside. And then Rostov later goes and has a drink with Richard, whom he has gotten to be good friends with, and he starts talking to him about the moths of Manchester until Richard is called away by his wife. But Rostov keeps thinking about these moths, and it was in regards to Darwin's theory of natural selection and how species slowly evolve in order to maximize chance of survival. And Rostov says, it doesn't have to take thousands of years. Sometimes it happens fast, like the moths of England when the Industrial Revolution hit.
The soot.
Yes. So these peppered moths that had more of a white wing were able to camouflage against these light-colored trees in England. And the peppered moths with darker wings would stand out and get eaten.
Oh, it was probably a type of birch tree. They have a very flaky,
white birch tree.
White, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But once the Industrial Revolution hit and there was all of this soot from the smokestacks getting settling everywhere, then it was the black moths who could hide more easily than the white. So Rostov is the pace of evolution shouldn't be feared, and even though nature doesn't have a stake in whether or not the moth's wings are black or white, it genuinely still hopes that the peppered moths will persist and not die out. And that is why evolution plays out over thousands of years to ensure that moths and men have a chance to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically where we're ending it today.
Pretty much.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of boring stuff just at the end of that chapter. So I just decided to skip it.
Yeah. But now we're starting at 1952 America.
1952.
America.
We will be reading America to the end.
We're finishing this thing.
And I have to ask y'all, will Rostov eventually get out of the hotel, or do you think he's going to die there?
I think he's going to die there.
You think he's going to die there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think he... Well, if he gets out, he's going to step out and get shot. It was just a fluke that he got to the hospital.
I think
I don't know. I mean, do you think, he could... Because, we're starting in 56. I don't know. Actually, we're starting in 52.
52.
Alan died in 1953.
But then
there are still people that would probably uphold that ruling.
Well, yeah, but we still have a good amount of the book left to go. Right. So I feel if we keep going on, even if it's 10 more years down the road, I think there's a good chance that people will possibly be hey, sorry for keeping you prisoner here all these years. Now you're free to go.
What if he's like, I don't want to go?
He could.
That's the ending.
She's like, I've been here.
It's terrible out there. I'm gonna stay in here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be that he's just like, oh, well, I've lived so long in here that I guess I'll just stay. But yeah, he's like,
he's got everything he can need. He's got restaurants. He's got
All right, so
company.
we are reading from 338 to 462.
To the end.
To the end.
To the end.
Yeah. So I'm a little in the mindset that he people might he might get a pardon or something by the government.
Yeah, I would like for him to get one, but at the same time,
yeah.
at the same time though, he's living pretty cushy.
Yeah.
Up in that attic.
He's got all that gold.
Oh yeah, he does have all that gold. He needs to. Well, that's gonna be for Sophia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna give all of it to Sophia and won't spend a dime.
Yeah, probably. All right, there's nothing else.
What's next on the agenda?
Did anybody read or write anything?
I did not, of course. What's new?
I kept reading Iron Flame. I'm still not done with it.
You've read a lot of it, though.
Just a few more chapters to go, I think. Okay. And then I've been writing, but I don't think I have anything on yet.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. So for this week, I read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Oh.
And he was an Austrian psychologist and Holocaust survivor.
Oh.
So this book isn't really about the horrors of concentration camps. And he even says at the beginning that that's been written about so much, so I won't go into details. So his book basically covers
the aftermath, maybe?
No, it talks a lot about the psychology of a concentration camp prisoner, just based on his own experiences and what he witnessed, how they would become so desensitized to the horrors they saw, the beatings.
I was going to say, when you first arrive, you're probably scared shitless, but you sort of get used to it after a while. As terrible as that sounds, you get used to that sort of thing just happening all the time.
Yeah, it's at the beginning, you still have hope,
but you're accepting your own mortality at the same time. You know that you are there to die. Yeah.
And then another little part is he talks about the psychology of a liberated prisoner where everything feels like a dream, and
you probably have guilt.
Yeah, he says that you almost can't really celebrate having your freedom back because you've lost the ability to feel happiness. And he said that a lot of people have to learn to be happy again just because you've gone through all of this horrible crap, beatings, labor, starvation, you literally see people dying every day, committing suicide, all of this crap, and things are just so bleak and everything.
Physically you've gained your freedom and you're not there, but mentally you're stuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then kind of just talking about his main thing was developing this theory called logotherapy. And it's basically finding a reason to live. Mm-hmm. And so he goes into how a lot of people didn't just die from disease or starvation, getting killed in concentration camps. Some people just lost the will to live and they quickly deteriorated. But there were other people who found a way to survive even through all of this suffering. So that's what a lot of the book was about, just breaking things down, the psychology of prisoners, also the guards kind of, who were vicious, but then some of them are nice. So it was interesting and kind of just makes you think why do I get out of bed every day? What's my own meaning of life?
I would imagine that he probably had a lot of survivor guilt. Why did I get out of there?
Yeah, and I think
when so many died before me.
Yeah, I think his whole family died too. His parents, his wife, and he didn't have any children with his first wife or anything, but she died. But yeah, he eventually moves on. He gets married again. Mm-hmm. I think he has children with his second wife. So.
Did he tell of how he survived? Were they rescued? Did he escape?
Yeah. They were rescued.
Okay, so it was close to the end of the war.
The camp that he was in at the time got liberated.
Okay, so it was close to the end of the war.
Yeah,
fortunately.
Yeah.
Do you know how long he stayed there?
I'm not sure. I know that he started out in Auschwitz, but then he got moved to a different camp because they knew he was a doctor. So he got moved to another camp to like help.
So one of the
them.
only reasons he survived them was because he was a doctor.
I wouldn't say the only reason. I mean, he had to like do labor in like other camps and everything. And,
but
like,
if he wasn't a doctor, he probably would have died in Auschwitz.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I would assume that because of his education, that was one of the main reasons.
I think that was like a good reason why he was able to like get transferred out and everything. And like, yeah, I think like in Auschwitz, like he did do a lot of like the manual labor and everything. I think there was one part where he said like he was in, he left one camp just in time because there was a famine that happened and some of the people there resorted to cannibalism. So he got out of there just in time. Before they were liberated, he was, this guy like narrowly like avoided death like multiple times. So there was like that. And then like before they got liberated, there was like the guards at one of the camps was like, hey, we're gonna like put you on like a convoy to like go to the other camp. It's gonna be fine. So he's like waiting and everything, but they don't put him on. And he was just like, ugh, like you said that I was gonna be on this convoy going back. So they were just like, all right, just like wait a second and everything. So they have to wait. And then that camp got liberated and everything. And then he learned that convoy had gone to a camp and they like immediately killed everybody that they had taken. So it's just like,
so he was very lucky.
Have narrowly like just missed death so many times and everything.
I mean,
but
no concentration camp is a good one.
Oh yeah.
But Auschwitz, I say that he probably would have died there because it was most famously one of the deadliest.
Oh yeah. It was like a lot of people were like immediately taken to the gas chamber,
right,
like after they got off. Yeah, there was like another little blurb. He would say like for a job they would be rewarded with cigarettes, but you could trade the cigarettes for food. So that was good for the prisoners so they don't starve. And he was saying like when you saw another prisoner smoking their cigarettes instead of trading them for food, then it was kind of a sign that they had lost the will to go on and they just kind of wanted to enjoy their last days with the smoke and everything. Right. It's like you could trade this for food and not die, but you're just not doing that. So it was
very cheery read.
I mean, it wasn't cheery or anything, but it was definitely interesting.
Enlightening.
Yeah, it's just like, like what is my motivation for like getting out of bed every day, basically. So, that was interesting.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Aww. Not even your fur babies?
His wife.
Yeah, that's about it.
It's my husband. And my fur baby.
Well, that's nice.
You too, okay? This podcast.
I gotta go on every week for
I have to keep this going every Sunday.
We're just keeping on.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to read my little news, and then Hayden can share with us what he has been thinking about.
Would you like my fun fact now?
If you want. Do you want to say
I'll go ahead and share it.
Okay.
So today, me and Andrea went to Ruby Tuesday.
Okay.
Because it was already like 12 o'clock. I didn't want to fight with the church crowds. We've got these gift cards, but they're always so busy. So we went to Ruby Tuesday. We go there every once in a while. And I mostly like it because they have the salad bar. And the croutons are incredible. It is some of the best croutons I've ever had in my life. They are like crack. And we looked it up. Andrea found that they're actually made out of pumpernickel. So I found myself wondering, do I really like pumpernickel? I've never really had it before. I kind of want to get a loaf and try it. I want to try to make these croutons as well. Uh-huh. But I looked up pumpernickel just to see like if I could make it, if I can buy it. And the AI overview says, in description, pumpernickel is a dense, dark brown sourdough rye bread with an earthy taste. The name translates to blank blank. Would you like to guess?
Guess.
What would
Olivia,
pumpernickel translate
guess,
to?
Guess.
And think of it as
Translate
pumpernickel. Two separate words. Think of that.
Pumpernickel. Yeah, what does that mean?
Pumpernickel.
What would you think that would translate to in German?
I don't know.
Wildest guess.
Wildest guess.
See, the first thing that came to my mind was like pumpkins and nickels, so I was like orange silver.
No.
I know.
You couldn't be more wrong.
I know.
The name translates to fart demon.
Demon.
Due to the digestive effects of the unprocessed rye berries.
And
Traditional German recipes are made solely from coarsely ground rye and baked for hours at low temperature, resulting in a dense loaf and deep color from Maillard browning.
okay, so he told me this, and I said, "Oh, that's just
I said,
some,
there's no way.
that's
Is
just
this
some
Wikipedia?
AI messing this up or
Is this,
something."
This is Wikipedia saying this, right? This can't be real.
So then I looked it up on Wikipedia. And so this is what it says. It says, in the Germanic vernacular, where pumpern was a new High German synonym for being flatulent, and nickel was a form of the name Nicholas, commonly associated with a goblin or devil, like Old Nick,
Old Saint Nick.
a familiar name
Santa.
for Satan. Or
That's
more
why they have Krampus.
generally,
That's where Krampus comes from. This German.
or more generally, a malevolent spirit or demon. Hence, pumpernickel means farting devil or devil's fart.
Oh my gosh.
I love that devil's fart. It's
This
so
is-
delicious.
A definition accepted by Merriam-Webster Dictionary.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. You know, I'm a man who likes pumpernickel.
Devil's fart.
Alright.
Ooh, some of that with some like roast beef.
You craving the
Be
devil's
good.
fart?
Some roast beef and devil's fart. Sign me up. Maybe a little bit of sauerkraut. We'll get wild. Ooh, and we'll get some mustard in there, some German style
Okay, but
Dijon.
those croutons, they are so good.
So
I would just eat them by themselves.
I do eat them by themselves. They are crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. They have a sweet, savory flavor, and it's just a joy to the mouth.
He dropped one on the ground and he said, "Man down."
Okay, so if Ruby Tuesday wants to sponsor us, that
Ruby
would be
Tuesday.
great.
Listen, y'all might be struggling, but y'all were busy today, so hook a brother up.
Yeah, Ruby Tuesday is just like an enigma. Because, like, when do you ever see one?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of
She
people
even
have them.
Our waitress said, "We're probably one of the last ones."
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's almost every time that we go, there's like one or two other couples there, and that's it. But the salad bar
She
slaps
said during a shift she has like 5 tables.
over the entire shift.
And then today, Sunday's their busiest day, she had 5 in like the first few hours.
Yeah, the first
So
couple
she
hours.
actually had customers.
Yeah,
today.
so she was doing well. But listen, everybody, if you go to Ruby Tuesday, just pay for the salad bar and get croutons only.
Just eat.
Just eat
Or
them.
just when you walk by to go to the bathroom, grab a crouton.
Just pop a crouton.
Just stuff them in your pockets.
Yes. All
You-
day croutons.
You are depriving yourself of something.
Well, I guess
Also-
Zach and I might have to go to Ruby Tuesday.
Also, during this time, me and Andrea had a business idea, which I'm not going to share with you, but I'll tell Olivia about it later.
Because we don't want you guys to steal
You can't steal my
our
ideas.
intellectual property.
That's my intellectual property. You can't steal it.
All right, I guess I'll figure out what that is. Excited. All right, ready for some news? Okay, so I read this one article from the BBC on fantasy novels
Ooh.
where some people were kind of like not really angry,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think it came more from a place that they just wanted to make people aware. And the main problem from the article was people using Welsh culture and language and then like some other like Celtic culture and stuff in their fantasy books because, like those regions, traditions, and language, they give off more of like the fantasy, romancy vibe.
I gotcha. Okay.
Nobody wants like old England. They want that Celtic stuff.
Yeah, like for fantasy stuff, but they're like just worried that this perception, like in the books, is kind of making it seem like these places are magical and romantic, and it's just like creates an image that isn't realistic, really. And the fact that sometimes people just pull from a lot of different Celtic cultures, like without properly doing research on it. I think that was like one of the main things. And it actually, the article did mention Rebecca Yarros apparently had to apologize for using Scottish Gaelic names, but then mispronouncing them. So,
ooh, do you have examples?
No, I don't have examples. I probably should have pulled them.
Who is that?
She writes Fourth Wing and Iron Flame.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's the dragon smut, right?
I probably would have butchered them too. But yeah, I think the article is mostly just saying like, hey, if you pull something from another culture, just make sure you're using it correctly. Get a sensitivity. Okay. Like they mentioned getting a sensitivity reader to read your stuff, just making sure that you're paying.
I agree with that.
You're paying respect to people's like culture and traditions and stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to seem like you're just using it and don't care about it.
Yeah, it had like some quote from some guy, and he was like, "Oh, I just thought it was neat."
Well, for example, how we ended last episode, I read a Scottish poem, and I know that I butchered the pronunciation because they were all written out in like Scottish language.
Yeah.
But still, I'm just reading a poem, not using it.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you're like American, and you're trying to write a fantasy novel about dragons and stuff, you're not gonna go with America.
No.
Smack dab in Utah.
My dragon named
Bill.
More than likely, if it was placed in America, they would pull from like
Bill
native.
and Pamela got it on.
No, it would be like
dragon
Native
bag.
American type folklore is what they would pull from.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. I can call it right now.
That's true.
There's gonna eventually be a novel that gets popular, and it will involve mythical creatures.
Maybe not dragons, but
it will be mythical creatures, and it will be based on native. Yes, calling it right now.
But I don't. But I don't see them like romanticizing Native American. Like,
oh, they would.
Think so?
Absolutely.
It's so brutal.
It'd be spicy.
No.
It'd be brutal and spicy.
People would be like, "That's really racist."
Well, see, that's sort of what they're calling out. It sounds like is
that's
that you are being a little racist
against our culture and traditions.
Yes, and I understand it.
But then I read a little Reddit thread on it, and a lot of people were just like, well, I don't give a crap what people use for their books. Like, it's supposed to be fantasy, so
there's also that side
use
of it,
what you want, but I don't really know
I see both sides, and I agree with both sides. I kind of like that there's a sensitivity coach to read through it, but at the same time, who gives a shit? I feel it both ways.
I mean, because like it did mention ACOTAR and everything, and it was like a lot of stuff does come from like other cultures, like folklore and like the names especially, like, and all that stuff. So like I don't really see, I don't know,
like
just like for me especially, because we're American and everything.
Feyre, that's
it's like I don't know anything.
Feyre sounds very like Irish.
Yeah. Yes. So like for me especially, like like it is fantasy because I've never heard these names before. Like I don't come where a culture where people are called Rhysand and Cassian and Nesta and everything. So it does sound very fantasy like to me. But from the places where like this stuff is pulled from, it's just like, all right, well, this is just like Scotland,
right?
Whatever.
Much,
like it's not fantasy for them.
No,
I guess. So
it's just like Ireland, Scotland, Celtic.
Like, but I don't see a problem from like taking little things from like other.
As
like,
long as you are not
language,
like inaccurately portraying something, like say you saw like some kind of Scottish ritual and you wanted to like include name in the book, and you were like, oh, this ritual does this, which is like the exact opposite of what like the ritual does.
Yeah, if you take the name of something and then you completely change it, then that's like,
I see a problem.
Why are you doing that?
I see the problem.
But yeah, you can take like different little bits and pieces, but call it something like completely different. Like, I don't see a problem with that. Like, take little bits, but like create your own world around it. Like, don't just take stuff from people's culture and try to pass it off as fantasy, because that's not fantasy for a lot of people who come from those regions.
Yeah, I can see how that would be disruptive to their culture. Disagreeable.
Yeah, that was it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I think people are just going to have to make up their own names, like Himnaha.
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 Here comes Himnaha. And that could be somebody's name. Sorry, Himnaha.
Himnaha, if you're listening.
If we have a Himnaha listening.
We don't mean to disrespect you.
I'm sorry.
Anyone named Himnaha, come join us for our next recording.
What? You remember that How I Met Your Mother episode? Where he's a professor and he thinks he's doing like,
it's like something poo.
He says cock poo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's cock poo.
Here.
Come on, guys. Is this original? Here. Cock poo. What is that? What a ridiculous name. And then she's like in tears. Because the guy's like, she's back here, bro.
Absolutely.
And then he's at a restaurant later, and they're calling out an order. It says, order for cock poo. And she's like, he's like, very funny, Barney. And she's like, here.
So rude, Ted Mosby.
He is rude.
We could have a whole other podcast.
We're not going to talk about How I Met Your Mother.
We could have a whole other podcast on How I Met Your Mother. Up until the end of season 7.
Subscribe to our non-existent Patreon to
listen to more ranting.
Our
Also,
rants.
Okay. If y'all like the ranting at the end, we're gonna have to keep recording even after the podcast is over.
Gosh. We missed a golden opportunity last week.
We had some funny conversations going on.
We had a lot of stuff that we talked about last week after I clicked stop recording.
I was pretty
We're just gonna keep
tipsy.
rolling.
We made Olivia walk a line and she did not pass. She would have been arrested.
I did pass and I made it. I'm not dead.
Well, I did the finger thing and she moved her entire head instead of just her eye.
She couldn't walk a straight line.
So we were having fun. We were having a lot of good conversation.
It got real dirty.
Oh my god, I remember that thing you asked.
I just want to say nachos will never be the same.
I don't remember.
I don't remember exactly what the question was, but my jaw dropped.
I knew that I asked Hayden what type of food he would bang.
No, it was something you asked about our own personal sex life.
What did
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I was like,
Olivia!
Oh!
Do you remember?
Oh, that was terrible. Oh, yeah, it just hit me.
I don't remember.
She asked me that as if it's something done in her home.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I will never look at your husband the same way. And she was like, no, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. No.
Remember.
Oh, I remember.
Exactly. You'll have to remind
I'll
me.
say it.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
Wait, do the outro.
Okay.
Are you have more to say?
I do not.
Okay.
So okay. If there's nothing else, read your chapters. and
Read your
See you
chapters.
next week.
Also,
first
I
of all, read
forgot
your
last week. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok before it's banned, please. And if you want to submit a story, me and Olivia are taking submissions for either blanking February or freaky February. So submit those to our email at onelitpod@gmail.com, onelitpod@gmail.com, and we will talk about your spicy stuff.
Yeah, send us your freakiest stuff.
Your freakiest stuff.
We'll read it on the pod.
I will. The only thing I won't read is like
drawing a line.
The only thing I won't read is just like adult child love.
Oh, yeah, no.
Disgusting.
We ain't going there.
No. Anything that's like definitely
Illegal.
We won't read.
Well, okay, we'll read illegal
Murder
things.
is fine if it's an adult.
We'll
there,
read
yeah.
illegal things, but things that we don't agree with, like adult-child relationships, no.
Literally,
That's
I'm
a
just
big
saying,
no-no.
like, that's the only, honestly, that's probably the only thing, like, I won't read.
That kind of draws the line, yeah.
Yeah. No.
But anything else?
To consenting or dubiously consenting
Adults.
Yes. Anything else, the crazier, the better.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be people. It could
Olivia
be
loves-
inanimate objects.
Olivia loves
Yeah.
inanimate objects.
I love inanimate object romances. They're hilarious. I haven't really read a monster romance, but I'll do
we
that
can do a
too.
monster romance.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
Cupid or something.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
Read your chapters.
But yeah, that's all. Read your chapters, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.